Connecticut Cephalopods, first talk show radio. Here, the Connecticut Cephalopods are joining the NBA along with the Honolulu Sharks. To get a live look in, here is the Honolulu Sharks logo. And here's the Connecticut Cephalopods. The Cephalopods will be joining this league based off the Atlantic Ocean, and hence gaining their name Cephalopods. Terry Free is the owner of the Cephalopods, and he is bringing in GM Sheldon Woolman to run the show. Here's Terry Free talking to Sheldon Woolman for the first time. We're down with finding a great staff. I love this. This man's patience is very nice, which is obviously necessary for an expansion level team. I'm ready to get started. And here we are, expansion protect players. So it looks like Sergio Rodriguez will be out there. There's going to be a lot of veterans out there, I'm assuming. We're going to take a look here. Jason Terry could find his way onto this team. We're looking for some veteran leadership. Taj Gibson's an interesting name left off here. Michael Carter Williams is on the list here. Cavaliers, there are several players here I could be interested in bringing in. Amir Johnson, another intriguing name. Not sure how I feel about the $12 million, but might have to work with it. Jerebko, another possibly important player. Here we have not really a lot of interest any which way. A lot of old players on this team that would not be beneficial. Jamaica Green is a name we could see come in though. Wade Baldwin, he is definitely going to be protected. Troy Daniels, an interesting name here. Let's get some shooting. Cephalosha, get some defense. Splitter and Humphreys could be also a tandem you could see interest in here. Tim Hardaway Jr., a former first round pick actually. Mike Scott, the guy whose role never really developed in Atlanta, but does have a lot of talent, so we could see him come over. Ryan Kelly out of Duke. He is a nice shooter, mid-range anyway. Could see some potential interest here. You see the Heat are trying to win now, so they're keeping their best players. Dion Waiters might be the most notable name on that list. And Luke Babbitt as well could get brought in for shooting purposes. Also, Willie Reed's an interesting big man. Here from the Hornets, could be looking Spencer Hawes to gain some height and three-point shooting from a big man. Or also Roy Hibbert, a one-time All-Star, could also find his way onto the team here via the expansion draft. Joe Johnson, also another name you could see. He's a great scorer, maybe the potential focal point for this team. Shelvin Mack, also another interesting player out on that will be available. Aflalo could be intriguing, or Caspi. Caspi, there's been rumors he wants out of Sacramento due to his decreased role, and he's a good shooter, so you could potentially see him being a cephalopod this upcoming season. And Scalabicier not getting a protection, but rather they gave it to Papagiannis and Ben McLemore, so interesting decision there. And also Malachi Richardson went without one. Interesting here that Brandon Jennings did not receive any. He is the last kid out of high school, I'm pretty sure, to be drafted. Also, here we're looking. No one else really. Maybe a Ron Baker kind of guy, but he's a little bit of a shooter. Pretty talented. Good defensive player. Outside of that, all the Lakers got their young stars protected. Maybe Nick Young, Swaggy P, bring Swaggy P in for the road. We could see that happening, or maybe a Marcelo Huertas for a backup point guard if necessary. We don't really see anyone besides Jeff Green here that could be we could have interest in. Solomon Mesri could be intriguing for some defense and rebounding interior. A great rebounder. He might be a must. Or even AJ Hammond's the second round pick this year rather. The Mavericks only pick in the draft though. And Nicholas Brasino, he's a young kid who can shoot the ball pretty well, and he shows some upside, so maybe we bring Brasino in. The Nets, no one really interesting from there. Gary Harris did receive it, but Yusuf Nurkic did not, so he's probably going to be a must here. So then probably Nurkic, and also maybe a Mike Miller to come off the bench is maybe where we're looking. Rodney Stuckey would be also very interesting. Quick here, a former Piston, did not quite fit the role that he was supposed to fill in Detroit, but could potentially come here and just become a scorer for this young upcoming team that we will be building, or attempting to build. Etuan Moore is a good shooter. Maybe we'll bring him in as our starting wing if we're unable to acquire Stuckey. And then also Langston Galloway from former Knick. He showed a lot. I liked him as a Knick a lot. So we'll see if he'll be out there available for us, or if the Sharks will pick him up first. Interesting, Marjanovic did not get claimed or protected, and he's an A-plus rebounder, so he is probably at the top of our draft board at this moment in time. Give us some height inside. He is almost a must. Norman Powell, interesting. Nagoya, Caboclo maybe at the end of the draft for some athleticism. Nene potentially later in the draft if we can build around him for some bench help. KJ McDaniels would be an interesting addition. He is a young and upcoming athlete. Would like to have him a lot on the team. Onaku, he can shoot, he can rebound the ball pretty well, but outside of that, he's not the most talented. Ginobili, he would be interesting. Would definitely be interesting. I would love to have Ginobili, but he's not at the top of our list. He would be a 5th round value or a little bit lower than that probably. La Provita, not really what we're looking for at the point guard position. He's got good height, but outside of that, and he's a good shooter. But we like to run a more pass first point guard kind of game. Ulis could be interesting to bring in. He is very athletic and a good passer. He'll probably find his way onto this roster one way or another. Jeremy Grant, would love to have him, but he has trouble spacing the floor in any way. Kyle Singler, the man who never has been, really didn't fill into his role. Maybe bring him in as well to see what he could do here. Now, Tyus Jones, this is an interesting one that he went unprotected. And Shabazz Muhammad. On top of this list for us is Shabazz. We want him, but if we don't get Shabazz, I would be happy to bring in Tyus Jones, or potentially both if that is possible this draft. And Harkless, great defensive player, all around pretty solid player. So we would love to have Harkless as well, and maybe even Festus Ezeli if we could manage to get some inside defensive help and some rebounding. I think Ezeli and Marjanovic are the top of our list right now. Interesting how they didn't protect Livingston, but rather value protecting McCaw. Jamie and Jones instead. A very interesting decision there on their part. If I were them, I would have protected Ian Clark over them. Ian Clark is very talented. He could be a guy we would like to see brought in here if possible. He had a good postseason last year. Thomas Satoransky. He's a point guard, 6'7". He's only 24, and he is unprotected. He is probably going to find his way onto this roster. And that is what we see. Now the expansion draft. We have the first pick here. And we're going to go 27 and Nurkic is 22. We're going to go Nurkic here. Yusuf Nurkic is a cephalopod. They went Joe Johnson. Interesting. Who did they go with their second pick here? Let me look. Norman Powell. Wow, that's kind of a reach a little bit, I felt, but interesting that Rodriguez is available. Not necessarily intrigued there, though. I feel like we should go Festus Ezeli. And now to wait for their pick. And with the third pick, they're going to go with a third straight big man of Boban Marjanovic. You see they've got the center position filled now thoroughly. It's going to be hard to build a scoring perimeter at this point, but it's going to be something that is necessary later on. Michael Beasley is an interesting mix here. Maybe we bring him in. But at this point, they're going to value Rodney Stuckey. Rodney Stuckey brought in. He's going to be a combo guard here for us. And with Etuan Moore, if we bring him in, we don't get that true point guard necessarily, which we would love to do. We would love to get our true point. And for the true point guard position, we might have to look to let's go with who we think is the best fit here, and that's each one more for outside scoring. So we're going to bring in 2 combo guard players. Oh, and Tyus Jones went, what? Along with PJ Tucker. Very interesting picks there for Honolulu. But I definitely think at this point, to get another pure scorer, the one-time #1 leading scorer in all of the nation in college and in high school when he was a high school player, I think we should definitely go with wing shooting guard. Okay, what? Am I missing something, or I'm kind of confused where this man went. We're looking for Shabazz Muhammad. Tony Snell could be an interesting fit. He would give us some defense. But we're really looking for scoring at this point. Oh, he's probably not on here because they took Tyus. That would make sense. So let's go. We need either a guard or a wing. Or just scoring in general. Beasley does fit that scoring that we're looking for. So I would say let's go with Michael Beasley. He's only 27. He's a good fit. He's what we're looking for. And also let's get the scorer Tim Hardaway Jr. to come off the bench for us. Let's see who they went and took. They took Maurice Spates. Okay. They didn't miss out on much there. I feel like we're solid at the big man position. And this is when we're going to take our biggest risk of the night. Doesn't have any NBA experience, a former second-round pick 4 drafts ago. We're going to go point guard Thomas Satoransky. And to accompany Satoransky and hopefully help him grow. No, I'm not liking what I'm seeing there. So let's look around here a little bit. We're looking for probably some perimeter defense here. That's what we're probably looking for. So let's look for some perimeter defense. Who's the best perimeter defender out here? Eustace is, but then Jeremy Grant is second. And I'd rather get Grant. He's a better inside defender. He's got more offensive ability out, like, besides the 3-point line. But he's a little younger even. He weighs 20 pounds less. He's an inch taller. I like his intangibles. He's a good athlete. We're gonna bring in Jeremy Grant. Let's look for another center to bring in. And If we go here, we're missing out on a lot of rebounding over Dedmon. Dedmon's a great rebounder. So is Christian Felicio. But he's a good interior defender. Brings a big name to the city. He's a veteran coming off the bench for us. We're going to go Roy Hibbert. And to add to our bench, backup point guard Jerian Grant. We went David Lee, which is an interesting pick. Which means Manu Ginobili did not get taken. And Nene went. Also another interesting selection. They could be putting together a pretty solid team over there. I'm looking for potentially here. Rashawn Holmes came on at the end of last year for this team. He's got some nice talents. He doesn't have any wear and tear on his body. He's very healthy. Averaged over 13 minutes a game last year. He might just be the best fit for this team. He's someone who is young, can potentially become better. He's got a nice frame. He's only 23. He's someone we're going to add to this team, Rashawn Holmes. And then to round out this draft, we'll see here we got enough big men, so we should probably add a small forward. And the small forward list did get small quite quickly here. I'm thinking either to add James Jones, a very well-known shooter, or Caspi, who's had issues in the past with a multitude with his team in Sacramento. Bring good shooting off the bench. He is not very versatile. He's older. Not the greatest shooter, but he's still a pretty solid player. So we're going to bring in Omri Caspi. And now to start the season. Auto generate. That's always fun. Then let's set our lineups. They want us to start Jerian Grant, which I'm not keen on doing necessarily. I want him and Jeremy coming off the bench. I'd rather have Satoransky starting. He's our big name player. He's what we brought him in for. So we're going to start. This is going to be our starting lineup right here with Nurkic and Ezeli getting big time minutes. Marjanovic is going to come off the bench with Hibbert, but Hibbert's going to get less minutes than that. He's going to be more of a role player for this team. Etuan Moore is going to be our sixth man, or our seventh man actually, behind Marjanovic. It's going to be these two are the big guys coming off the bench for us. Rashawn Holmes, you're going to be getting minutes. Caspi is not going to get as big of a role here, which could cause problems, as that was what his problem was in Sacramento. He's not going to log a ton of minutes here, but that's just how it's going to be, Caspi. When we need you, we need you, but when we don't, we don't. That's how it's going to be. So you see we got Grant here. We got the Grant brothers. Got Hibbert coming off the bench, as well as Tim Hardaway Jr. Hardaway Jr. is going to look to slide up to here like this. There we go. So then this will be our starting lineup opening day. We are starting a rather big lineup with Beasley as the 3, but that is what he has commonly played throughout his career. And that's what we're going to keep him as at this moment in time. First scoring option. That's going to be Stuckey. We want Stuckey to become our scorer. Beasley, he's been a great scorer his whole career. And then coming off the bench, we're going to have each one more be a scorer. We're going to feed the post. Actually, let me consider this again. We don't really have any great offensive players on the inside. That's going to be our problem, is we don't have any real scorers on the interior. Hibbert's been the only one who's ever resulted to much scoring in his career, and even that, his highest scoring season was 12.8. So our defense, our points of emphasis is going to have to be a pick and roll offense. We're going to be patient, though, however, limit transition. No, we want to crash that offensive glass, especially with how many big rebounders we got on the inside. We want to limit perimeter shots because I trust that our big men can alone protect the paint. Defensive aggression. Actually, I want to protect the paint. Defensive aggression, we're going to play physical. Crash the defensive glass, definitely. Help defense. 75. I'm fine with running plays. Bench depth, let's go to 12. We can get 12 guys in. Bench utilization. About right there. Lineup performance factor. We'll set that at 35. And for the playbook, we're going to do the Mavericks playbook, I'm going to say. So this is our starting lineup. And now to get some work in while scrimmaging. We'll scrimmage for a little bit here and see what we're doing. See how our jerseys look. Be very interesting how this team can handle itself through the off season coming up, and hopefully we can make a move at the deadline potentially to either sell off a player if need be, if Caspi's not happy with his role or whatever it needs to be. I'm liking our ball movement to start this off here. And just to show you guys, my game difficulty is Hall of Fame. That's just what it is. Sadoronsky. I'm liking the height he gives us at the point guard position. He's able to see over the defense, provide difficult matchups defensively. We have a pretty tall team. I think Stuckey is probably our shortest player in general, I think. And he's probably our most athletic, though. So when you're the fastest and probably one of the highest jumping players on the team, it's okay to be a little shorter. Sadoronsky's gonna have to see. Sadoronsky has some weaknesses from his European game. Not quite sure how he's gonna translate over. Nurkic, we're gonna let him get some work in. And he leaves it a little short on Marjanovic. Good take by Stuckey there. Yeah, I like to see that. That's what I want Stuckey to do for us this year. If the ship's not sailing, though, he's probably going to be one of the first ones out because he held the highest trade value most likely for this team. I feel like our bench scoring is going to be very low this year, to say enough about that, as we didn't really pick up a true scorer off the bench. Like, we got Etwan Moore, but outside of that, he's going to be our only offensive threat on the bench, which is why I feel like we should have potentially grabbed Manu Ginobili at the end there before they took David Lee. See, this is the matchup. Rashawn Holmes is going to have to win some of those this year. That's the issue, is if he plays as the 4, he's a little smaller. But he is good athletic 4, it's just he doesn't necessarily hold the exact size requirements. Nurkic with a good block there. That's what I like to see. We're going to throw that lob to Satoransky, and that's what our point guard is able to go up and get those balls, which is nice to see. We're going to get that double. Oh, and a nice pass from Marjanovic, but no, unable to drop Satoransky. He's going to be able to get in there and get some rebounds, and that's a turnover by Stuckey. Etwan Moore will probably be the X factor for this team this year. If he is able to perform off the bench, then it's going to be a good season. But if not, it's going to be a long season. Marjanovic, nice. Former number 2 overall pick, Michael Beasley. We're going to let him take the ball at the court. He's going to be a point forward for us at times. I am comfortable with him being a point guard on this team. We're going to even let Satoransky set a pick for him. See, look at that. Court vision finds Azili. Probably not what we want to be doing. Azili, you need to be on the inside for there. Oh, Beasley gets that tip. Oh, Marjanovic on Nurkic. We do have a heavily foreign-born team here in Satoransky, Nurkic. Beasley has spent time overseas, but he's not foreign-born. Marjanovic is foreign-born. Oh, see, now this is where we got to get a mismatch here. I want to space the floor. Let me ISO down in here. See, Satoransky with that 4 or 5 inch advantage at the point guard position is going to have to be able to do that for this team to have success. Satoransky with the steal, though. He pushes and gets the dunk. This is what we like to see. Satoransky, there's been questions about his athleticism at times too, and his speed to adjust to the NBA game. So far in this first practice, though, he seems to have been doing fine. Oh, and he gets him on a pump fake. Oh, and Beasley sends it back. Oh, Satoransky. Good hustle, though. Stuckey's going to have to play a huge role. I feel defensively on the perimeter we are pretty weak. Interior-wise, we are a very, very solid defensive team with Hibbert, Nurkic. Holmes is probably our weakest interior defender for bigs, but even then he holds his own. Marjanovic is very solid interior defense and rebounding. It's just we're going to have to become better perimeter defenders, and that is a good sign to see by Etwan Moore to knock down a nice 3 from him. We're going to get that pick and roll action going. And he throws a lob to Nurkic, and Nurkic can't finish the lob. This is Beasley's. coming out late on Jeremy Grant, and that's not Jeremy Grant's game. The coaches are gonna have to talk with him about that. It's about finding what his real role is. Beasley for 3. That is not necessarily Beasley's game, but we are okay with him shooting out there. He has been able to shoot in the past, so we're not going to change his game completely. Jeremy Grant, however, should not be shooting 3s. Good block by Beasley, lead the fast break. That's a little drop off to Stuckey for 3. And that's where we're going to end this episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this start of this new season. And this has been the Cephalopod broadcast. Thank you and goodbye.